Hey everybody, welcome to the Darksliders podcast with Doug and Brad.
Hi.
I feel like I'm always really excited when I do that, and you just come in with this boring hi.
Because, I'm excited. I just keep my excitement. I talk a lot during these episodes, so I just try to keep on the DL until I get
Until we get
going.
very far in.
Yeah, I try. Actually, I don't like to talk during the intros because then I babble so goddamn much on this thing.
Alright, well, last week we didn't do a full episode. We put up a review of Star Wars Battlefront. Highly recommend you go check that out. That game is really cool if you're a Star Wars fan. We won't talk about it too much today just because we talked about it last week. But this brings us to our full episode today. We'll just get into some games that we've played here. So, Doug, this past week the Bloodborne DLC came out, and anybody who's listened to this before knows that you freaking love Bloodborne
I freaking love Bloodborne.
more than anything on this planet.
No, not anything. I like Kingdom Hearts more, which we
one
discussed in
exception.
episode 32. Or
You even got the number reference. That's
I?
impressive.
Yeah, I don't think that's the actual number. I just like that we now have like Star Trek trivia where it's like in episode 32. What did you guys talk about? I would love for I honestly
Except
love for somebody to
nobody
go back.
knows anything about our episode.
There's a few people. There's like a few people.
That's true.
I just wish somebody goes back and corrects all of our stuff because I listen to old episodes and like there's stuff that we're just completely wrong about. When we just talk about dates and times and years, like completely wrong. I would just love for somebody to go back and just give us a long list of everything we ever screwed up.
So if you have literally nothing to do,
Mhm.
impress Doug. But anyway, you got the Bloodborne DLC. You got this. Did you pre-order this, I think?
Sort of. I bought it day one. I thought I was waiting for it to be like a price drop for pre-ordering, and then it just kind of released, and I was like, I think I might have bought it like the day before. There's no pre-order bonus or anything like that
Okay.
for it, so yeah. Yeah. I really like Bloodborne, but this DLC has taught me that I'm actually like not very good at Bloodborne. This DLC has actually made me quit.
Wow.
And yeah, it's not bad. Okay, I just want to say this DLC is not bad, but I will say this DLC is a lot harder than the base game, which is already a very hard game. So I had started up a second character, not on New Game Plus. I just started a new character a while back, and I started playing through the game again because I just liked the game. And I wanted to. I actually went through this time with a guide to try to find all the stuff I didn't find before. There's actually missed a lot, which was actually really exciting. I started playing the DLC, and I would say I was a good 75% of the way through the base game. And then I started playing the DLC, and I was kind of getting my ass kicked. I was like, "Whoa, what the hell is going on?" Like I almost near the end of the game. This is weird. And I just kept getting my ass kicked, and I was like, this is fine. If you're playing the game, like you're normally just getting your ass kicked that game, like just constantly. So I was doing
I
fine.
think that's the point.
Well, yeah, kind of, but like I was getting destroyed by like normal enemies, which is not something that happens. Like
Oh.
when I've already beaten the game, so I understand how Bloodborne works. But I was just getting beat left and right.
Gotcha.
I got to the first boss, and it was the first time I was legitimately stuck in Bloodborne, like stuck. And I had that feeling that I haven't had in a long time that I had with Dark Souls, and it was kind of that feeling of like I hate this game.
Hey, you know
feeling.
how I feel.
Yeah, and I just like, it's because I think when people who like Souls games, like when they kind of get into it, they kind of forget that like why people don't like these games, because you do get to a point in those games you sort of understand how they work, so you're like not really stuck. Sometimes you're like you'll get stuck on a boss, but not like stuck. And I was stuck on the first boss. The first boss is probably, in my opinion, I gotta, of course, anything I say is my opinion, is the worst boss in Bloodborne like I've ever.
In the
Like,
first boss in the DLC?
yeah, the first boss in the DLC.
Well, don't
So
you
like,
have to beat a boss to get into the DLC or something like that? I
No,
know there's
no,
some
the-
back-ass way to get into the DLC.
the DLC actually isn't that. They expect. Oh yeah, that's kind of funny. Okay, so the DLC, in order to access the DLC area, I say you need to get maybe 25% of the way through the game. And it's just like there's just a boss you have to beat in the game anyway, and then you get an item, and the item's pretty explicit of where you need to go, and it's like a quick Google search if you need to really look it up. It's not as back-asswards as people thought. But anyway, so you can get into the DLC maybe 25% of the way through the game. I got stuck on the first boss. I ended up having to go through the base game all the way up to the final boss before I could actually start the DLC. Like,
To like just level up, or
yeah, like I had to level up like all the way until I was just before the final boss in the main game before I was like, in like a good enough spot to even like fight the first boss of the
Wow.
DLC. Yeah, so this is not. I guess I'm just not used to buying DLC, and I guess it's kind of normal for a lot of DLC to be kind of like after the base game, and it's actually pretty difficult. Which is I just didn't know that. So kind of going in this, it's kind of like a brick wall. So I didn't have fun with that. But I will say this DLC is pretty damn cool if you are properly leveled. So I just might get up to the part where you have to fight blank the final boss. Don't fight him, just do the DLC. But the DLC is so cool. The area that you go in is called the Hunter's Dream. I'm gonna try to not be super spoil. I'm not
Wait,
gonna be. Yeah.
isn't the Hunter's Dream the place where you go with like the church or whatever?
Oh yeah, sorry. No, the area you go to is called the Hunter's Nightmare.
Oh, so it's like the
Yeah.
opposite of the church thing.
Yes, it is
Okay.
the opposite. And the concept for this is just I'm gonna do some like light spoilers. What the concept of the Hunter's Nightmare is that throughout the game you kind of fight blood crazed hunters. And what happens is when a hunter hunts too much, they sort of get a taste for the blood. You fight one of the blood crazed hunters. He's like the second boss, Father Gagas.
Not Gargamel.
How
Gargamel's
the
the
hell's that guy's
Smurfs.
name?
Damn
No,
it!
but
It's Father.
Yeah, Father G. Let's just call him Father G.
Yeah, I actually beat that boss.
Yeah, he's like one of the second bosses. So the concept for this DLC is that when you are a hunter and you go blood crazed, you get sent to this nightmare realm. So what it is, like you're fighting all the characters you fight, it's kind of like a back in time thing. You fight all of the hunters that came before you. So like all like the base level characters you fight are hunters. Like there's just hunters all over the place. And it's actually really neat. And it's kind of hard to talk about without spoiling, but the areas you go to are very cool. And the story in Bloodborne is always kind of like really, you're never really sure what's going on. Um, but the story for this DLC is super creepy. They kind of reveal there's this thing called the Healing Church, which is one of the main churches in Bloodborne, that you sort of learn about, and this kind of reveals the secrets of the Healing Church. And I, man, I can't. It's so hard to talk about that without spoiling. But basically, it sets up the fact that the Bloodborne universe is the way it is because people deserved it. If you think about like the apocalypse is like, oh no, all those poor innocent people got blown up. In Bloodborne, they kind of show you it's like, no, all these people got exactly what they
They're
deserved.
all
Well,
assholes, so now they.
yeah, yeah, exactly. But it's like it's like everybody's an asshole. Nobody was a good guy, and basically a bunch of people started messing with things they didn't understand, and it all blew up in their faces as it rightfully should have.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool. Like it's kind of neat, like seeing everybody as a bad guy. That's kind of like really minor spoilers. The original game kind of goes that. I would say if you like Bloodborne, this is more Bloodborne. I would say if you don't like Bloodborne and you think the game is too hard, I would stay far away from this DLC. This DLC is really hard. And it was the first time I actually had to do co-op. A lot of the bosses are designed around co-op. So some of the bosses they are like almost impossible doing like a single one-on-one, which is what I did for like the entire base game of Bloodborne. But a lot of them are designed for co-op, so it's like almost impossible to play doing them one-on-one. But if you do them with a co-op partner, like there's suddenly super easy bosses. So the bosses are kind of hit or miss. There's one or two really cool ones, but I don't know. The bosses are kind of eh. The environments are amazing. It's more Bloodborne.
How big is it?
Get it?
Because I know it's 20. It's $20,
Um,
which seems fairly expensive for DLC.
yeah, it's I'm gonna spoil the number of areas, so people who are like, this can be a big deal for people who play Bloodborne. There are 3 areas in the game. And if you've played Bloodborne before, you kind of have an idea of how big an area is. So it's pretty big DLC. Like I'm probably like 10 hours, no, probably less than that. Probably like 8 hours in or something like that. I'm getting near the end.
That's solid.
But it feels solid. Like I feel like I got my $20 out of it. It feels like if I was going to compare to Bloodborne being a $60 game, it feels like a third of that game.
That makes sense then. So $20 makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, like right now, I think if to get the old Hunters DLC and a base game is like $40. Like, yeah, it's absolutely worth it. If you like Bloodborne, then yeah, it's worth it's worth the $20. I don't feel like ripped off or anything like that. I did feel a little like because it's so hard. Like I feel like I only saw like $5 worth of it until like until I got unstuck and I did end up leveling up and getting through it. But I was like, oh man, if I quit now, I've only I've only seen $5 of my $20. It's ridiculous.
That's exactly how I feel about real Bloodborne. Is man, I saw about $15 worth of that game.
And you can see more of it. You just need to to start. If you start a character from scratch, I think you'd actually have a much better time. Anyway.
So wait. So do over the stuff that already pissed me off. So get past the stuff that's currently pissed me off.
Well, I think you just. I think you have a better under. Well, to be fair, like I replay the game and you get through stuff a lot faster, and you sort of understand the mechanics. So it's kind of I don't know. I felt like I kind of destroyed the game my second time through, which is a nice feeling, and I think it'll help you get over the hump that you're currently stuck at. Which you're actually not stuck at anything; you just stopped playing.
No, I'm stuck. I tried that damn funky looking thing. I don't remember what his name is. Like 14 times. That's stuck.
Okay, that's a little stuck. You can just level up. You can anyway. You'll never play Bloodborne. I've convinced.
A game I like much more than Bloodborne.
Mm-hmm.
I recently bought Persona 4 Golden.
Mm-hmm.
This is a game I've wanted since I got my Vita like 2 years ago, and it finally dropped below $10, so that's when I bought it.
Which is super weird because I played Persona 4 on PS2, and I borrowed your copy.
You did borrow my copy.
Like you're like, I've never played this game. I was like, I know you own this game on PS2. Did you actually never play it?
I never touched it.
What? Why did you? Okay.
Well,
whatever.
Okay, so I bought Persona 3 because I don't even remember who. Somebody was like, this game is amazing. So I put like 40 hours into Persona 3, which, for those of you who haven't played Persona, is about halfway through.
Yeah.
And just got to the point where I was just kind of wore out and I was like, whatever. But during that 40 hours, like, holy crap, this is amazing. And I found Persona 4 for PS2 relatively cheap. I was like, well, I'm going to want to play that.
Yeah.
So I bought it and then got burned out on Persona 3 and went, I'll start it later. And it's been sitting there for the past 7-8 years. But anyway, so I finally broke down and got it for Vita, which... oh my gosh, this game is so cool. And I think this is the same thing I had with Persona 3, where it's just like, this is so different than what I normally play that it just makes it amazing. So if you haven't played Persona, it's basically you go through the day and you're in high school for a while and you move in with this family. And then in this one, there's all these murders that are going on. And I'm only like 5 or 6 hours into it. I'm not very far at all. But there's all these murders that are going on. And you go into the TV world, and you like actually fall into a TV, and then there's all these like crazy nightmarish alternate people selves things, and the people who are in there are dying. It's this huge mystery thing set up, which is really, really cool, and I'm really interested in the story, which I don't remember being so much in Persona 3 because I felt like I was just climbing a tower the whole time.
Yeah, Persona 4 has like a much more every dungeon has like a very big story aspect to it.
Yeah, I like the fact that each individual dungeon has almost its own story element because it makes everything feel much fresher. And again, I'm only in like, I've played through maybe 2 or 3 at this point. I don't know if that continues for the whole time, but Persona 3 had this thing where it just was like you're climbing a tower and you just keep climbing the tower and then you climb the tower a couple more floors. Whereas this, it's like every single aspect is specific to that person's characteristics, which is a really cool concept to go off of.
Mm-hmm.
And the visual style in this game, just everything about this game, I love, which is weird because I'm really not into these more very cultural Japanese style games, which this is very, very Japanese. And it's one of the few that I've really been able to like go, this is really cool. So I'm excited to play that more. I know you played a chunk of it, right?
I did the thing where I played about 30 hours of it and got burned out.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I actually do like this game. It's to me it's just too long. I think we talked about like South Park Stick of Truth, like that was the perfect length, and that game is about, I don't know, 20, 30 hours.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just like when I think about this game, I really, really like it. I just don't like, I feel like it gets monotonous after a while. One of the things I actually don't like about the series, okay, just to be clear, let's look at the things I do like. The style is awesome. Everything about this game like just permeates style, and yellow is my favorite color, so I just like how yellow the game is. It's really, really slick. Like, I don't know, it has really cool menus. It has really cool music. The music's really strange, like jazz music, kind of.
Oh, it's awesome. Great soundtrack.
Yeah, great soundtrack. The enemies are really cool. It has this really cool kind of graphic art style where it's like really hard black. It has like a lot of like checkerboard pattern and stuff. And I really, really love all that. I really, really don't like a very large portion of this game, which is the high school part. Like I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm already kind of sick of that, and like I said, I'm only 6 hours in. It just seems like it's forced in there. Like I just want to go from like TV screen to TV screen to like character dungeon to character dungeon. I don't really need this whole like your friends want you to join the basketball team. Are you
Yeah,
going to join the basketball team? Which again, I think is that more cultural Japan aspect. I feel like a lot of Japanese games have those types of elements in it,
yeah,
and I think that's one of the things that's always hindered me from going to from trending to Japanese games is just because I don't I don't know. I'm not in high school. I didn't care for doing that shit in high school. Why do I want to do it in a video game about high school?
yeah. And there's a lot of parts where it's just like, hey, let's not go battling. Let's hang out today. And I was like, oh, I don't, I don't want to do that. I just there's
Yeah,
like I can understand like character development wise, it makes sense for them to kind of hang out, and it is the idea of it is kind of cool. Like they're not always trying to save the world. Sometimes they just like just getting food or something like that. But like I don't need to see that all the time.
yeah,
But again, that's like that is the persona. That's like the persona part of the persona series. Like
yeah,
it's called
yep,
persona. It's like it's your persona.
yeah.
So I just didn't like honestly like I just couldn't get over the fact I was like hitting on high schoolers. I was like this is weird. Like I was like okay, so am I supposed to like thinking as a 16-year-old like in Mass Effect I guess it's okay because like everybody's an adult. So it's not as weird, or like The Witcher, like everybody's an adult, like it's okay. But like this one, it's like, oh, I'm studying for college. It's like, oh, great, okay. It's like you are just not emotionally prepared for this relationship. Um,
Doug's issue with Persona. I don't. Oh god, that's funny.
I don't.
You're not
Yeah,
emotionally prepared to invest in this monster hunting relationship, and I
yeah.
don't. I don't think we can be any more than just monster hunting buddies. I really don't think you're ready for a video game character who doesn't exist.
Yeah, but it's weird. Like there's just something about it to me that I find like very strange. Like okay, it's like I'm playing a high schooler, like trying to hit on high school girls. Like I get it, I get it. It makes sense. It makes sense for the game. It's just like I just feel uncomfortable playing it as like a 20 something. So it's like that aspect I just really just didn't like. And it's a larger aspect of the game. It's like making friends with high schoolers. And I was like, um,
This is one of the few games that I feel like actually makes you feel like you're the right age, just in the way
that
things
is
are
true.
set up.
Yeah.
I feel like you kind of mentioned Mass Effect, things like that. I feel like that's one of those things where your character can really be whoever you want. It's like, no, you're a high school kid in this. There's no getting around with it. And the way that you interact with the characters, and the way that the day is set up, and the way that your interactions with other characters and your way that the interactions with the world are set up, really makes
Mhm.
it feel like, okay, your character is actually a high schooler.
Yeah. That I just like I like talking about the game and I like the idea of the game. I just don't like playing the game with that.
I guess
Which
that
is
makes sense.
because I think the story is actually really cool. I mean, you're not. I got farther than you did. But just like the concept is like somebody pulling. This might be light spoilers for you, but like somebody's pulling somebody in like the TV world and then killing them in this TV world, and everybody sees it on their screen at like midnight.
Yep.
And there's this like whole thing with the whole they're your doppelganger, like the person inside you, like the evil person inside you is that who you really are, and you're just not admitting to that.
Yeah.
So that looks really cool. Like I'm actually super super excited for Persona 5 just because it actually just because of honestly of how it looks. It just looks really cool.
I feel like that's the
Uh,
thing with these games is just it's the style of this game. If nothing
yeah,
else, these games just have such crazy over the top style that it's just awesome.
yeah. It's just really slick and it has a neat story.
And
It's
it's
just
like classic turn-based combat, which I feel like everything else has gone away from, and this is literally just like pick your attack and go. And I love that because I'm so sick of like, and your timing, and you're moving around the battlefield, and you're da da da. It's just like nope. I just want to hit attack, skill. I want that, and I miss that, and that's what this is.
yeah. I like that. I don't like that on consoles, but on Vita, like it's perfect. It's
Oh, it's
so
yeah,
good. It is so good on Vita. Just like that sort of like I would say that monotony almost works in its favor. We kind of talked about this with some other Vita games like Muramasa that it's kind of repetitive, but it's really good when you have like a drop in drop out Vita sort of
yeah.
Vita. So
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have called this like the perfect Vita game, and I have to agree with that. It's like this is the game that Vita is designed for. Between the look and just how great it looks on that screen, the
hmm
style of game, everything to do with it's the perfect Vita game, and I love it so far.
yeah. Are you gonna get Persona dancing all night?
No, Moving
You know,
on.
okay, real quick, just so you know, Persona Dancing All Night and actually the fighting games are like canonical
Oh
sequels.
yeah, I know. They both are. I don't really need to play a dancing game right now. The fighting game
Yeah.
I have considered getting a couple times, if nothing else, just because I like weird fighting games. But
I would actually watch out for. I would actually not get the fighting game until you're done with the game because there's actually like huge
oh,
spoilers
I'm
in
sure
the
there
fighting
is.
game.
But
Because yeah, yeah,
yeah, the other game I've been playing this week, it's an older one. It was a PS Plus title, like probably a year and a half ago. This was one of those sitting around in my house, had nothing to do, and I
mm.
needed to kill some time before Battlefront came out. And I knew this wasn't a very long game. That was Call of Juarez Gunslinger,
Yeah.
which has to be one of the most surprising games I've played this year. I loaded this up basically out of I got 2 hours to kill. Let's see what this is about.
Hmm.
And oh my gosh, it's so much fun. And it's done with just crazy amounts of style. And it's like people actually invested a whole bunch of time and work into this. And I don't know if you played any of the other Call of Juarez games, but
I personally have that now.
well, the first two, the first one and then Bound by Blood, they were all right games. They were kind of just typical Western shooters. The third one was the one where they moved it to modern era and you were like a DEA agent or something weird. But just the way this game works, so it starts out you go into a bar and the entire game is your character narrating his crazy Wild West adventures to these other people who are in the bar. And the entire game is set up almost in a Bastion kind of way where as you move through the game the narration affects what you're doing. So you'll walk up and it'll be like, oh, them bastards were held up in the bar. I looked around, saw the open window, and climbed my way through as you're going through and doing it, which is just, I love that.
Yeah, it is. It is super cool. I also like that. I like that it's this is kind of like a concept you see in like literature, and you don't really see in video games, which is an unreliable narrator.
Yes, and it works so well in this. It was, I
Yeah,
literally,
like
I was,
yeah,
okay, so in the first mission, I literally like about lost when I did this. I was like, this is so cool. And it does it like 3 or 4 times where you're going through and it's like, and I walked up to that barn and I shot out every single one of them. There were 40 guys there and I killed each and every one of them. And as you're doing this, of course, you're fighting 40. It feels like a big boss fight. You're doing all this stuff. And then all of a sudden you'll hear like, that's bullshit. You didn't do that. And the guy will be like, ah, shit, you're right. Let me tell you what really happened. And then the whole game will just stop and like rewind back. So I walked up to the barn. Sheriff drew his gun on me, knocked me out flat cold.
that's so cool because I think the whole concept of the game is like a drunk at a bar.
Yeah, that's
Like,
exactly what it is. Is you're just drinking a whole lot, and they point that out at the end. They're like, "You did not do this. You are completely drunk right now." I was like, "Maybe."
yeah, I played the demo for this, so I have like a little bit of experience. But it's like it's not a Call of Juarez game. It's like an arcade shooter
Oh yeah,
game, kind of. It's yeah, I don't know. The gameplay itself is like super weird.
yeah. It's a very different kind of. It's a first-person shooter, but it's got the headshot point bonuses thing that you see in Bulletstorm. And it's also got a like bullet time effect where you get like your Western vision, or I don't know what it is, but you click a button and everything slows down. And they've got reflex shots where somebody comes up behind you, so it's very have a very arcade feel to it. And again, it's just got that very light-hearted kind of fun story. There's just so much to like about this game, and literally it came out of nowhere. I literally loaded this up just like, oh, I got 2 hours to kill. I can cross this out of my list of things I have but have never played.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so as you're going through the story, of course, your guy is the best bounty hunter ever. So he's encountered. I'm not a huge Western person, but I recognized about 90% of names as these are the famous Western people. If you know famous Western people, this
Yeah.
guy's the guy who killed all of them, which gives him that
Oh, that's
unreliable and everything. It's like, oh yeah, Jesse James shot him. Oh yeah, Billy the Kid. Yep, took him down.
Are they all like are they boss fights or?
Yeah, yep.
Oh, that's kind of cool. Do you fight
So
Annie Oak? Do you fight Annie Oakley? I'm just curious.
no,
Oh,
that one
bummer.
wasn't in
Okay.
there. But so the boss fights for the most part are these duel systems, which I didn't. They were weird. Again, the end level characters just kind of being those famous Western icons was really cool. But the duel system, you have to. You're both kind of doing like the like pacing back and forth, staring each other down thing.
Yeah.
And your right stick, you have to keep your eyes on them, and you get like a focus percentage as to like how close, how crazy your reticle is going to be. So whether you've got like a spread shot across the entire screen, if you're at 0, or
Mhm.
100%, you can pretty much pick where you aim and it just narrows down your crosshairs. And then you've also got, with the left stick, you control your hand and how close it is to your gun.
Oh, weird.
So you've got two percentages trying to go up, and it's really hard to concentrate on where your hand is over the gun and where your reticle is on the guy.
That's
And
kind of neat because that's the concept of like trying to stare a guy down
oh
while
yeah,
to figure out your gun. That's kind of neat. Yeah.
it works really well. It's just one of those things that is frustrating in the sense of this game because it's just this fun run and shoot everything in front of you game. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, now stop, focus. I
Yeah.
just shot down 82 cowboys on a train hanging off of a cliff, and now I just need to stare this dude down.
Yeah,
But I don't
that
know.
is
It's
pretty
just
cool.
it's a super cool game that I really really enjoy, and it was PS Plus sometime
Yeah.
last summer, summer of 14, I think. It's like
It's a
4 hours long, so it's not long, but it's a fun game.
it's a pretty cheap PSN game. Like I think you could probably get it for like $5-10 now.
Oh yeah, for sure, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it's got to be one of those ones that shows up on sale all the time. I would feel like too, but
Mhm.
definitely not what I expected with this game, and I was so happy to sit down and play this.
I'll probably get that eventually. If it's on PS
Yeah,
Plus, I might actually own it. I don't
yeah,
know.
that might have been, it was right around the time when you finally actually broke down and got PS Plus,
Hmm.
so
I'll have
it
to
might
check
be
if I own
close.
that.
Um,
So- Mhm.
this last thing I'm really interested in, Wolfenstein: The Old Blood, which
Yes.
has been cheap. It's Black Friday. We'll maybe hit that in a second here, but it was Black Friday last week, and I know you got this. It's like $6 right now on PSN for another
It,
3 hours. So your goal now is to convince me why I need to spend $6 on this in the 3 hours before it ends tonight.
well, you can save your $6. Uh,
Oh,
oh, I know. It's kind of rough. Okay, so the concept for this is cool. The concept is you infiltrate Castle Wolfenstein.
yep.
That's what this is. This is Wolfenstein. Like you, this is
It's more the classic style of Wolfenstein game where you're fighting Nazis in 1940s.
yep. You're
Like,
fighting Nazis in 1940s. Yep. There's like an occult aspect as well, which is also very Wolfenstein. This game, it's sort of a DLC. It's a DLC. It's kind of weird because I do like the idea, these concepts of these DLCs where they're sort of like side stories. Like
yeah,
they're clearly not a part that was like taken away from the game, but they're clearly like a side story they wanted to tell, but they couldn't really fit in the main game. Kind of like the
Last of
the
Us.
Last of Us DLC. Yeah. So I kind of appreciate the idea behind it. And as I say that, the game is it's just not good. It's because actually I did like Castle Wolfenstein: The New Order. I liked it a lot actually.
That game is fantastic.
Yeah, the level design in this is it's just not very good. So like the first firefight you're in is really cool. You're in this circular room. There's guys jumping on your shoot. You're really really cool. There's like you gun down like maybe like 20-30 guys in this really small area, and it's a lot of fun. And it's kind of it's like almost like a museum aspect. And after that, you end up in prison. That's kind of a spoiler, but
I think you'll be okay.
yeah. But the prison it's all stealth. Like it's almost like most of it's all stealth. So it's really weird. The game kind of sets it up as like this big bombastic shooting thing. And the next 2 hours after that, you get like pipe that doesn't do a lot of damage. It's just it's just like your melee weapon, and you get a silenced pistol, and you just like slowly walk around. And it's kind of like that. It's if I just said bad stealth in a game, it's that. Like
Oh,
yeah, so it's like a lot of just like waiting for guys. You can't really tell if they can see you or not. Like just trying to sneak around guys, and if they see you, you're just obliterated. Like everybody has like super mega machine guns, so you're just dead. Um, the levels aren't very pretty. I basically I'd say I played about 3 or 4 hours of this. In the 3 or 4 hours, I just like didn't really enjoy. I finally got into Castle Wolfenstein. So like the first part's like you're infiltrating Castle Wolfenstein, and then I finally got into Castle Wolfenstein, and then you start shooting like a ton. It's just a ton of shooting. It's kind of fun, but what happens is you're it's really really hard all of a sudden. Like there's just too much shooting, so it goes from like this a ton of shooting to no shooting to a little bit of shooting to like way too much shooting back to stealth. It's really really like kind of jarring. Like it kind of like jumps between these things. Like it's I don't know. It feels really really disjointed. And there's a lot of stuff that you can pick up and read, but the reading aspect. This is actually a problem with the first game as well. When you pick up something to read, it's like 2 pages of text. Like it's a lot
Oh
of
yeah,
text to read.
it's tons.
It's tons, but like in this game too, it's like it's a game where you run around shooting people. So every time you pick up an item to read it, it's like it's not just a quick read. It's like, oh, okay, like I'm pausing the game basically. So you're
Yep.
just kind of running around constantly pausing. And I just stopped reading them after a while, which just sucks because they are interesting. This just isn't the game for them to be interesting in, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. Also, the setting isn't as cool as like the 1960s Wolfenstein. Like you can say this is a more Wolfenstein game, but it's just not as interesting. Like this game is kind of what I expected the New Order to be, if that
See,
makes sense.
and that's part of why I was so hesitant on this because it
Mhm.
sounded like it's the first two missions of
Yeah.
that one, just because the first two were you're in Castle Wolfenstein, you're doing all this stuff, and that was my absolute least favorite part of that game. So I feel like they
Yeah.
took the part that everybody disliked about the main game and were like, well, let's talk a little bit more about that part nobody liked. Let's do a bit more with that. So that was kind of my hesitation with it, just because if I thought 2 levels of this is boring, I'm going to think 8 hours of this is probably boring. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I love the base game though. That game was real good.
Yeah, the base game's awesome. It's just there's something about that. Like even the base game, like as while that opening isn't great, it has a really awesome choice at the end, sort of thing. Like the
Yeah.
the, the end part of that is amazing. Like it's really really cool, even though the part leading up to it isn't so great. But this just doesn't have any like really cool parts. Like nothing in this makes me go, "Whoa, that's awesome." It's all kind of like, "Oh, okay." It's like the bad. It just feels like kind of like the bad parts of the New Order, which is I always hate being like really down on games, but I just didn't really enjoy it. And like there's reviews you can see where they kind of talk about that. But that's kind of how I'm feeling about it. Again, I haven't really finished it, but I feel like I'm about near the end, and there's
Yeah.
never an point that there's never a thing like I really wanted to talk about.
That
Yeah,
sucks.
a little. Well, it doesn't suck. It sucks that it's not as good as it could
Well, it
have been.
sucks. It's disappointing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we kind of mentioned it. Black Friday was a couple days ago, which is like
Mhm.
crazy shopping day and crazy cheap things. So you
Yep.
bought this. Did you buy anything else?
So like this is sort of a in the future games we'll probably be talking about.
That's terrible.
So
Okay.
future of
Anyway,
yeah. So I picked up Until Dawn, so I'll be able to finish that. Brad, you actually picked up Until.
that is the only thing I bought this year. I only bought Until Dawn, which I'm super disappointed in myself. And normally I have like 7 or 8 games that I buy on Black Friday. I
Yeah,
bought Until Dawn, and that was it.
that's kind of a bummer because I picked up Until Dawn, Witcher 3. I'm actually really really curious to start. Because I hear there's kind of contention between the Bloodborne fans and the Witcher fans, like if which is the better game, because Witcher doesn't have as good as combat as Bloodborne, but it has a better story. So I'm really curious. I got Far Cry 4.
So it has a story.
I
Ah.
also picked up Far Cry 4. I have not played. I think I said this on the podcast. I haven't played a Far Cry since Far Cry 1 and Crisis 1, so I'm really curious to see what's happened in like I don't know, like 8 years. Um, and I picked up Final Fantasy 10 and 10 2. We will not be talking about that on the podcast.
Good
We talk a lot
call.
about Final
Best
Fantasy
game
10.
ever. Well, second best game
Yeah,
ever.
it is really good. It's a good game. It's just a good game. But we talk about it so much on the podcast, and everybody's played it. It's just one of those games that everybody's played and everybody talks about. But damn, it's good. So that's about it. I just picked up those 4 games. I actually canceled my order for Dark Souls 2. I kind of because of the Bloodborne DLC. I was like, I don't know if I can deal with this much frustration
Why?
right now. I just couldn't deal with the frustration.
Uh,
I was just like, I can only deal with like one frustrating game at a time, and I was like, I can't have two.
well, and Dark
So
Souls
with
3 is what, February?
yeah, exactly. And I was kind of hyping myself for that. I was like, I don't want to ruin. It's kind of like it was actually reminding me of like Arkham Origins because I feel like Arkham Origins kind of ruined both of our experiences of Arkham Knight
Just
because
because we played them so close together.
yeah. So I kind of feel like I'm trying to save myself for Dark Souls.
Oh my. Well then.
Yeah. Mhm.
Wow.
Yeah, and I also got and I got Wolfenstein. That was the only disappointing one so far.
You did much better than I did.
Should have gotten. I'm surprised you didn't get any of those games like Witcher 3 or something.
I considered Far Cry 4. I also almost bought The Evil Within. There were a couple that I almost did. It was just none of them were like, oh, I need to get that right now. It was
Yeah,
kind of
and
more of just like, I'd play it eventually, but
kind of feeling that about most games now. But shh.
then
It's all coming down to time investments, really. Like it's
see,
just
I'm sitting here like looking at Xenoblade Chronicles, which comes out this week, and going,
yeah.
oh damn, oh I should buy it, I should buy it, I should buy it, and That's been my debate for the past 3 days, and I think that's honestly like half the reason why I didn't, because I was like, well, if I don't buy these, then then I can feel more justified in spending $60 on Xenoblade Chronicles this week.
I can understand that. Yeah, but it's gonna. I just feel like that's gonna go on your stack of JRPGs, just like Persona 4 and like literally every JRPG you've played except for Final Fantasy X.
And I feel like there's other ones. Lost
Yeah.
Odyssey.
Oh yeah, for that one's really cool. That's one I'll just never play.
Yep,
It's all coming down to time, just time investments.
absolutely. So
Mhm.
we'll get some news here this week. A lot of this has to do with PlayStation Experience and Game Awards coming up this week. So we've got kind of some teases, some rumors going around about different things that are coming up here.
Mhm.
Not
Before we,
necessarily.
oh yeah, before we get into like the actual like rumors and stuff, can we just talk about PSX and Game Awards. Like
It's your
what do you
podcast if you'd like to.
yeah, I like what do you feel about those things? Like how do you feel about PSX? Like do you want to go one day or is it just kind of like
I have no issue with PSX. I think it's kind of cool if they do their own thing. It's on my list of things. It's not. I mean, I would still rather go to E3 or something like that than PSX, but
yeah.
it's a neat idea just because it really does a great job of highlighting Sony's first party things, their exclusives, why Sony is the best console in Sony's mind. And I think they do a great job of just saying, here's what we got. We're going to throw it out there. This is something that's more dictated to game fans as opposed to games media,
Yeah.
which I think is cool. Just anytime that you can actually get the people who play your games to get hands on with them and reveal stuff to the people who play games more so than these guys who are just, writing stuff about it or talking about it, which we're doing now, ironically. But
Yeah.
yeah, I like the idea of it, and I think it's cool that Sony does it. But
Yeah.
I know you've been talking about going to this for like 2 years now. I'm shocked you
I
didn't buy tickets or something.
I was actually going to go if it's in Las Vegas again because Las Vegas tickets are cheap, but San Francisco is like that's an expensive plane ticket and then that's expensive hotels on top of it, so I didn't go.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do absolutely plan when they go to somewhere cheaper, then I will definitely go.
Come on,
Um,
Detroit. Come on, Detroit. Hey,
yeah,
if they have big news for Detroit,
actually, okay, I
that might
know.
work.
I don't think a lot of people in the industry, if anybody actually listens to this, but if anybody knows that they're going to be doing Detroit showings, please send us a Twitter or something like that because I would absolutely love to try to get in one of those things. Because I don't know, shit, nobody ever talks about Detroit, so it's nice when people, well, not in a positive light anyway. So,
Hey,
I'd
Lions won
yeah.
3 straight games. Leave them alone.
Yeah. So they'll lose one eventually. But yeah, this was kind of cool because I feel like it's kind of like Sony's for the player things. I really like that when they did PS4 launch, like, oh, this is
Yeah,
for the players and stuff like that. And this is kind of continuing that. Like it's neat that they're kind of catering to this audience that is, I feel, older. Like they're kind of catering to people. I feel like they're catering to me. Like I feel like they're catering to people our age.
definitely.
Like, and I like that idea of like, hey guys, here's some games we know that you won't like, but maybe your kids would like. Okay, here's some games that we know you guys would like. Okay, here's for the fans of that series that nobody ever really played, but we know that has a really strong base. We kind of gave them a small budget and they made a game for it, or like a similar game or something like that. So I like that it's kind of like it's sort of like attacking all these niches and trying to serve all these niches at once. Like that's where they announced the Yakuza 5. They announced Yakuza 5 being translated and stuff like that. So I think it's really cool that they're sort of serving this really really hardcore audience, while and then kind of leaving E3 to sort of their kind of like, oh, here's our this is where we announce Call of
Triple
Duty DLC
A.
and
Yeah,
stuff, and yeah, so I just really like that idea.
I do like
Game
this fact
Awards,
that
yeah.
I do
Mm-hmm.
like that it's kind of like Nintendo Direct, where it's okay. We're just gonna go straight to
Oh yeah,
fans. We're gonna do here's our stuff done in our way, on our time, releasing what we want to release about it. Not okay, it's E3. Shit, somebody get a trailer together for the new Call of Duty. We gotta throw Call of Duty out there. Somebody's gonna be pissed
yeah.
that we didn't talk about Call of Duty. Crap. I guess we should probably talk about Madden. Somebody call Peter Moore. Like all
Mm-hmm.
those things that E3 I feel like almost gets to the point where it's a checklist. Okay, we hit Call of Duty. We mentioned Assassin's Creed. We mentioned sports. We
Yeah.
mentioned. Whereas this is more like you said. Yakuza 5 is coming. Everybody's gone to the Rapture's coming. Like, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think they announced like Suikoden like 2, which is like a PS1 game that like a lot of people played, but I mean it's not super popular. But like that got like applause. Like that just wouldn't get applause at like E3 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I really like the idea of it, and I think for whatever I don't know who they got to do. They got a new I know they got a new guys to do their marketing, the whole for the players thing and everything. But I feel like the tone of voice they have for it is really. I feel like it's excited, but it kind of doesn't treat you like you're stupid. Like here's that cool thing that you like. It's not like, hey guys, look at I don't know. There's just
Yeah, I
they
get what you're
picked
saying.
they had this perfect tone for it that I just really like. So yeah, I'm kind of excited for the PSX stuff. Game Awards is also kind of cool. I like the Game Awards kind of grew up, kind of.
Kinda. Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it'll take a couple of years until I get the bad taste of the 3 Spike Video Game Awards that I actually watched out of my mouth.
To
Because like
be fair, yeah.
every time I hear this, I'm just like, I remember the couple times I attempted to watch those. I felt like a dumbass.
They were bad, especially the last one, which was like just VGX, which is like a 3 hours of like Joel McHale just basically making fun of Jeff.
Yeah.
Like it's just
Yep.
like, oh, they actually done one before that was really neat. I think whenever Last of Us won Game of the Year, like they had a guy come out like on a guitar and play the Last of Us theme song. Like they
Oh yeah, that
had
was really cool.
yeah they had like a full orchestra play some sounds stuff from the Journey. And it was like wow, that's really kind of neat.
Well, I feel
So
like I
yeah
feel like video games are slowly getting to the point where it's like, okay, we can consider these things to be and quote unquote like adult media as opposed to like just nah, video games are kids. Kids love Mario.
yeah
And I think like we talked about it before, seeing it in different lights too. Stephen Colbert had the dude from No Man's Sky on. Stephen Colbert had a
yeah
full orchestra come on and play the Zelda soundtrack. Things
mm,
like that where you're seeing, okay, shit.
Fallon.
Jimmy Fallon, that one. I mean, I know he used to do, I don't know if he still does, but he had Reggie on one time. And just, you see it where it's getting
Yeah.
slowly more integrated into the same culture that you see with movies and TVs. And I think the Game Awards shifting from the Spike Presents Video Game Awards with boobs and swear words and Doritos to the much more civilized, so to speak, awards that you saw last year, where it was okay. We're gonna have the guy come out and play this song. We're gonna have an orchestra. We're gonna have
Yeah.
the actual developers there to talk about these things.
Yeah,
So
it still had some silliness to it. Like it still had like that kind of like mostly anything. I'm gonna say YouTubers like like we don't actually have a YouTube or anything like that, but like I don't know that whole like YouTuber mindset of like screaming into mics and stuff like that. That's super popular. That had a little bit of that because you just need that.
yeah,
Like PewDiePie is probably going to be there, and PewDiePie is probably going to have a speech or something like that. It's like this
yeah,
it's yeah. I mean it's trying to get all. It is kind of nice. So it's trying to get like the adults in gaming while still acknowledging it's like there's a whole new generation of kids who like this stuff who are like that's the whole YouTube generation and stuff like that. So
yeah,
I'm pretty excited. I don't know if I'm excited for the Game Awards. I'm just every time I see it I hope it's just more adult. Like that's all
yeah,
every time. I just hope they do more adult, and that's pretty much all I gotta say.
yep. I'll agree with that. So there's lots of teasers and rumors and slight leaks and not leaks and things mentioned about what we could be seeing because Game Awards, I know they've advertised they have 10 world exclusive somethings.
Yeah.
And what those somethings are, we don't know if they're announcements, new trailers, new DLC, who knows. But they have 10 world exclusive somethings, and PSX will, of course, have a bunch. So there's a few
Yeah.
things that have kind of been being hinted at all week. This one, you just pointed this out to me like 10 minutes before that we started recording. So I don't know. I think this one's
Yeah.
fairly new.
This is really new.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has a rated M platinum game coming out.
Yeah. It's got kind of a cool title too. What is the title of that?
Is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutants in Manhattan.
Yeah, I don't like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a lot, but I can always appreciate another platinum game.
I was gonna say this has the same Transformers Devastation mindset in my mind of 8-year-old me loves some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. 8-year-old me is gonna love this. 8-year-old me really wants 20 somethings year old me to buy this.
Yeah, but now like I'm 20 something. I'm like there's like cooler stuff than that now. But
But it's still, like I've never played a cool Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle game.
Well, you played the arcade ones. You haven't played a lot. You haven't played a good one in a long
Fair
time,
point.
basically.
That was
Yeah,
like, but that's going on 20 years now. So
yeah.
yeah, I'm excited, and the fact that it's rated M seems really weird to me, just
That.
because.
Mhm.
I mean, the main focal point of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles has always been the Disney cartoon or whatever channel it's on, the
Yeah.
PG-13 movies. Now we're gonna have an M-rated platinum game, and all I can think is Re-Vengeance, Mad World.
Well, yeah. Okay. To be fair, this is in line with like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in general. Like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, like when it started out, was
Oh yeah, yeah.
was a grimy, violent comic, and then, but
But that's not where the brand is right now,
no, it's not at all. Which is kind of interesting.
and that's why I feel like it's weird. And I feel like that's almost like Transformers Devastation, where like, screw all this new shit. We're going back to the 80s. We're going G1 Transformers. They're kind of doing the same thing. Screw the cartoons. Screw the crappy 90s movies. Screw the crappy 2013 movie. We're going back to violent comic book Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles from the 80s.
Even that's weird. That's like such a small like portion. Like I think when people think of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, they like the first thing they think of is the '80s cartoon.
Oh,
Like they don't
absolutely.
think. I don't think they think of like that gritty comic booky universe thing. So on like one hand, I'm like, okay, that's really cool, but on the other hand, it's like it's not the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that I know. I understand this is actually going back to what they started as, but that's not really the ones that I would like identify with. Although I'm not a huge Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle fan in general, but I can always get excited for a new Platinum game. And I'm just happy that Platinum gets a paycheck. Like I'm always worried Platinum's just gonna go down one day, and like it's like, oh, like if the news came out tomorrow that Platinum just disbanded and they ran out of money, I would totally believe it, because they release a lot of weird games that I don't think make a lot of money.
See,
But
like, what
yeah,
weird games are you thinking of? Because thinking of the last, let's say the last year and a half to 2 years of Platinum games, they're working on Star Fox, Teenage
yeah,
Mutant Ninja Turtles, Metal Gear Solid Re-Vengeance, Transformers, Bayonetta
yeah.
2. When your weird one is a sequel to a very popular game, you're kind of moving past the weird stage. I feel like
Okay,
they've.
that's Bayonetta was not a very popular game, like at all. Like
Okay,
I mean,
it
that
was
game only
popular
got
to
made.
me.
Yeah, I was gonna say like Bayonetta 2 only got made because Sega didn't want to make one because they thought it was not worth it.
Fair
Um,
point. But I feel like Platinum Games are almost slowly getting into this Telltale realm where it's like we made
yeah,
really good games of this specific style for a long time, and somebody said, "What if we give you a really popular IP?" And they went, "Ooh, you'll let us work on Metal Gear Solid? Ooh, you'll let us work on Transformers?"
oh my
And
god,
now it's just getting this cycle of what thing is Platinum going to pick up next? I mean, Telltale started with, things like Tales of Monkey Island and things like that, and now it's okay. We're doing Walking Dead, we're doing Game of Thrones, we're doing Borderlands. They don't do anything original now. Platinum had Mad
that
World.
disgusts
Platinum,
me because that is absolutely what Platinum is. Oh my god. Uh,
they're done with your
uh,
fun little weird things. It's all pop culture games now. Get
yeah.
ready
This is
for.
like it was like our last episode. Roller Coaster Tycoon is Minecraft. Like this is
Yeah,
yeah. Like yeah, man. They are Telltale games. Which they make. I feel like now they make okay games. Like they make pretty good games. Like I just want them to do something excellent. This is not on our outline or anything like that. But Kamiya. Do you know that guy's name? Anyway, he's the guy who
the
did the
lead guy at.
Platinum. Who did
Yeah,
he directed DMC. He directed Resident Evil 2. I'm gonna say he did Beautiful Joe and he did Okami. And he was like asking on Twitter, "Is like, hey guys, if I was gonna make let's say I was gonna make a sequel with Capcom, which one would you want me to see me make?" And like surprisingly, it was just like one of those like Twitter polls. Like Okami won by a landslide compared to like Beautiful Joe, Resident Evil, Devil May Cry. Like everybody wanted an Okami sequel, and I was like,
but
oh my
Okami's one
effing
of those like Okami's one of those one-off games that so many people loved that it just
yeah,
makes sense. I mean, you have Resident Evils like nobody's business. You have Devil May Cry games like crazy. You have those other
yeah,
things have shown up over and over again. Okami was a once and done thing from 15 years ago.
yeah. But I mean, like I'm just trying to think of like I would love to see a Platinum passion project again. You know what I mean? I feel like we haven't really seen. I think Bayonetta 2 I would call like a Platinum like
Yep.
passion project. I feel like we just haven't really gotten that. We've gotten Platinum Combat Or like like God dang, that Telltale one is that's so good. It's just that Platinum Combat, just like just kind of like put into different Transformers has no reason to play like Bayonetta, but it does. Like that doesn't make
It
any
can.
sense for that franchise. But it looked cool and it played okay and it was pretty good. I'm just glad that whatever they're doing, I hope they're enjoying what they're doing, but at the very least, it's keeping them afloat, which makes me happy.
Yeah.
Oh, they are doing a passion project. That's that Microsoft game, that Xbox
Oh,
One game.
Dragon, whatever.
Soul. Oh, what the hell is that game called?
No, it was really cool, and I was really excited about it at E3. Yeah, the
Yeah, it got in
Dragon
my
one.
head. Yeah, the dragon thing. Oh, what the hell that game? Oh man,
Dragon
it's
Scale.
Scalebound.
There we go.
Yeah,
Hell yeah, Scalebound. That game was cool.
Scalebound. That looks like a passion project. That looks
That's true.
neat.
I forgot they were working on that too.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah.
Other things being teased here. Sony Santa Monica, famous for every cool PlayStation game you can think of. Uh,
Eh.
More or less.
Yeah,
Of the
kind of.
last,
I'll
of
give
the
you that.
last
Like,
3 or 4 years.
yeah. And boring people only know them from God of War, but those cool cool hipster guys. Yeah, we know they did like Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, and they help with those indie guys. They do
Yeah.
stuff like Journey and stuff.
Yeah.
But anyway, continue.
But anyway, they put up some teaser clip, and I have no clue what this is. It's like some foot dancing,
Yeah.
and that's all it is. And they're like, "Oh, get excited! Here's a foot."
Yeah, and honestly, like I know they're working on God of War 4. Like I'm like, it's like okay, that's kind of neat, sure. God of War 4 is like that'll be kind of cool. But honestly, I'm just more excited whatever their new like small game is. Like I really liked Everybody's Gone to the Rapture. I really like Journey. I really liked Ho Ho Come. I really like this. I really like that. I was like
Yeah.
I prefer their weird small games to their big bombastic ones. Although I really did like God of War. Yeah, they're teasing a lot of God of War lately too. Like they will not like their Twitter is not shutting up about that. So
Well,
that's coming.
now Kratos will be a dancer.
I hope it's like it feels like I wonder if they're gonna do something like Goddess of War. Like
Oh,
I'd be down. I'd be down for Goddess of War.
I
Sure,
could
why
see
not?
that. I could see
Yeah.
that. I don't know. That's all I
I
got
kinda,
for that. That was the most boring teaser clip I've ever seen.
it's not
That
even. It was like you're talking about a GIF that was sent on Twitter.
Okay, but like there have been other things that just like put something up, and I get way excited about it. If it's just like a image file and a clock on top of it, I will get excited about that. This is literally a foot spinning around.
Yeah,
No references to anything, no specific thing, nothing, which to me indicates maybe it is that small indie thing. But there's just nothing to it. It's a foot. Great. I don't care.
yeah. It is weird. Like I feel like you can't really tease new projects that have like, like nothing to do with old projects. Like you can't tease. Like okay, you could probably tease like a Hideo Kojima game or something like that. But like
But
if it's a new IP, it's like okay, cool, it's coming. Just show us the thing. Like we don't
yeah,
know what it
and
is.
that's the same thing with like Journey. If you just were like teasing Journey and you just saw a scarf floating, I don't care. Like show me the character model or something. And go, ooh, that's kind of an interesting looking character. If you just got a scarf floating in the wind, I'm gonna go, great.
Yeah.
It's cold out. You should probably put that on.
Yeah, and I always so it's really hard to tease like a new game that
I
people
agree. Yeah.
don't know about. Yeah.
Again, I think
So,
they almost would have served better just by putting up logo, new project, date, or something like that. I feel like that would have
yeah.
gotten people more excited than the foot.
Yeah, like even if we knew who like the indie dev was, because they're kind of picking up indie devs left and right. Like
Yeah.
there just needs to be something like attached to it, and there just really
Yeah.
isn't at this point. I'm sure we'll find out like by the end of the week.
Yeah. By the time we're talking next week,
Or maybe
you
by
will
the
know
time
what
you
that foot is.
yeah, I'll say by the end, like people will start listening to this episode. They'll probably know what it is.
Yeah.
Last time I saw that, I thought that one teaser was BioShock, and I was super wrong, so I don't want to try
You
to
went
guess anything.
off like crazy on how that was Bioshock.
I was positive that was BioShock. Turns out to be an XCOM game that I will never play. So.
Nope, PC only. Boo.
Yep.
Other things that have been teased. This one I have no clue about. You typed it in here, and I have heard nothing of this. Ace Combat 7.
Yeah.
What?
So there is an Ace. There is actually right now currently you can play on PS3 an Ace Combat free to play game, which has some like kind of snarky free to play stuff. Like you have to buy jet engine fuel, which is really dumb. Anyway, so there's a new update for it, and in the update they said it was like somebody data mined it, and it says something along the lines of like play on this date and you can get some new emblems for Ace Combat 7 to be announced at PSX. So it was like something like they're obviously going to like kind of show on, they're going to do something on like the PSX, like they were going to it seems like they're updating the game for a reveal at PSX
Yep.
to do like one of those cold drops. I think where it's like, and now you can play it. Like I think that's what they're trying to do, but. I don't know. I have no idea the amount of work that goes into doing those cold drops where it's like nobody knows about this game, and then we can't have anything pre-built into the store so people can't like data mine or do whatever
Wait,
else.
so you're assuming Ace Combat 7 full game is coming out this weekend?
No, but I think Ace Combat Infinity will have a shite ton of Ace Combat 7 stuff that you can
Okay,
get.
gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say Ace Combat 7 is a big game to just go, boom, it exists,
Yeah.
and you can play it.
Although I mean, but really, I mean, I could see that game doing that. Like, although I don't know. I feel like that's a really, really, really niche series. Like, I didn't even know there's 7. I think I played 3. 3 was cool. I don't know. I
Three
haven't
was
played it.
three was cool. I think 3 was the first one on PS2.
Yeah,
I
probably.
played a few of them. I like them. I like them, and then I realized I'd much rather be playing like Star Wars Starfighter, and then I put it back down and go, now I'm in space. This is way more fun.
Yeah,
Which makes no sense because it's the same damn game. It's just blue sky, dark sky, and that's the only difference. But the dark sky makes me much more happy.
yeah. Well, it's just because it says Star Wars on. I feel like
Mostly.
Ace Combat 7. Like, if you ask anybody, it's like, how do you feel about Ace Combat 7? It's like, I like that game.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's like the whole conversation.
Well, and as soon as you typed it on there, I went, shit, which Ace Combat do I have sitting over there on the shelf? I thought it was 7. Was it 8? Was it 6?
Yeah,
Like,
6,
I have no
yeah,
clue how many
4,
of these games
2.
are.
Who knows? Yeah,
They're fun games to play. I
Yeah.
would pick this up if it came out.
on PSN for $20.
PSN $20, I would probably buy it day one.
But
Like,
yeah, the $60. I doubt this is going to be a $60 one, especially since their last game was free to play. So we'll see.
yeah, could be.
We'll see on Friday, I guess.
Other things that have basically been confirmed that I'm hoping we hear a lot more about. So, Battlefront came out last week, 2 weeks ago, something. Battlefront
Yeah.
came out. With it, if you got the fancy, super cool PS4 Star Wars bundle, you got a bunch of old Star Wars games as well. 3 of them were PS2 games. So, somebody, I don't remember who, basically went through and figured out, oh, these are actually emulated PS2 games that are currently running on a PS4 with trophy support, network support, all of that kind of stuff
Yeah.
integrated in there sometime.
They didn't really do like let's just be clear, like they didn't do like a whole lot of snooping. Like what it was is basically if you play PS1 games on Vita, it has that overlay for like changing buttons and stuff that's part of the OS.
Yep.
That's all it had. So it had that. And like, oh my god, that was all the research they did. They're like, hey, it has an overlay for PS2. I'll bet that they're
Yeah.
probably doing that.
So Sony then recently, like after all this stuff came out, they're like, oh, I think this is emulated. Sony basically came out and said, yes, it is an emulated PS2 game. We will have more to announce later.
Yeah.
So in my mind, this is totally the oh shit, somebody figured this out before we announced it at PSX move, where it's like, yeah, that's a thing. We'll talk
They-
more about it this weekend if you could have just waited.
They knew they knew that they were gonna do it. I mean, like releasing, I, yeah. I'm not like faulting them at it. Like they knew that their people were gonna probably figure this out. I don't think it's a huge announcement. I think like a huge announcement would be like disc-based emulation. Like that would be a big announcement.
Oh yeah,
Like that would be
yeah.
that would be a big
That'd be
announcement.
crazy.
I doubt that's gonna happen. The one thing I am really curious though is what games they will be releasing on the emulator because like are they gonna have Final Fantasy X and 10 too?
Yeah,
Probably.
that's my thought with this whole thing, and it's the same thing that I had with backwards compatibility for the Xbox. There's
Mhm.
so many blank remaster, blank collection. I mean, every Ratchet and Clank game is in the Ratchet and Clank collection. I have the God of War games in the God of War collection. There's the
Yeah.
Sly Cooper. All these games, at least the ones that most people are going, I love those games, and I feel like it's mostly Sony first party for the most part.
Yeah.
Those games are already available on PS3. Now, not PS4 at this point, so again, you kind of get that extra generation there where you can kind of release Ratchet and Clank for the 4th time. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I will be curious too to see what they go with for this. Obviously, the 3 Star Wars ones are there. I'd be curious to see if they announce more Star Wars, especially with this being basically 2 weeks out of Force Awakens. It's a great time to drop out. Here's every Star Wars game for PS2.
There's not a lot of good PS2 Star Wars games. I mean, I guess Battlefront, but
Battlefront.
I feel like
2,
I feel like
Starfighter,
Xbox probably had
Starfighter. Was KOTOR 2 on PS2 or was that
no. See,
that was
KOTOR was all
Xbox?
Xbox, but
Yeah,
that's what I was
okay,
saying
I
is like KOTOR is like
Bounty
that's it.
Hunter. I believe Clone Wars was on there. That was actually kind of fun. Uh, I believe the Jedi Outcast game was on there. Maybe even Jedi Academy. Uh,
Maybe. Okay. I mean, I guess. Yeah, I guess that's true. I just like I'm just really curious how this is all going to work. Like, I I think it's kind of cool. Like, but I am really curious like what games are going to release and those like HD updates that we saw like with like Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper and all those. Like, if you read how they had to do those, like how they had to upres them, like it was some really intense technical work. They had to get
yeah.
those games like working on PS3. Um, so I'm curious. Like, I doubt like all games will work on this emulator. Like, there's just no way that they will unless they all have like some. If you play some emulated games now, you should own the games before you emulate them. Um,
Woo!
which
No legal
I
trouble.
do. Yeah. But like a lot of them require very specific like changes to the emulator that you need to make in order for them
Yeah.
to run well. And I feel like is Sony willing to put that effort for every PS2 game? Probably not.
Well,
So they're
I think you'll get like the Xbox did, where it's we did these 100, more to come, maybe if things people want them. Because that was kind of what
yeah.
Microsoft did. Is they said these are 100. We'll leave it up to the developers if they want to put in the work to do this. It's not a ton of work. You just
Yeah.
flip a couple switches, change a couple letters, and you're good to go.
Well, that and like you need like a shit ton of licensing.
Yeah, that too. But I think it'll be like that. I could easily see this being the thing of the and now on your PS4, PS2 games, they're up now. I could easily see that being their thing this weekend as
Yeah.
because they're obviously already running. If you don't have that Battlefront bundle, you can't play those Star Wars games, but they obviously work. They're obviously done.
Yeah.
I just think this is a very quick, easy, quick drop thing, like you said. Like just here it is, and I could see people flocking to it like crazy this weekend.
Yeah. I'm just kind of worried just because like I guess the best comparison would be like okay, a lot of movies never made it to DVDs, and
Yeah,
then a lot of DVDs never made it to Blu-ray, and then a lot, and then even less movies have made it to streaming. And I feel like that's kind of what's gonna. We're kind of getting like this like boiled down PS2 collection. That's I mean, this is all. I don't know. Maybe we'll do something awesome, just like every PS2 game works or something like that. I'm just really worried that we already have like a pretty good. We actually already probably have a really good boiled down PS2 collection with those like HD ones. But like if I'm gonna go back to my PS2 collection, I'm gonna find those weird games I didn't play. Like that's what I want. I want the weirdest possible games that I can find, and those are the ones I'm gonna play. Not the games I've already played like a billion times over because there's already PS3 collections and stuff like that. I just feel like I don't know. It's just gonna be the expected games, and I don't think we're gonna see a lot of surprises when it comes to what games are on there. I hope I'm
yeah,
wrong.
it'll be interesting to see. I think that's going to be a big part this weekend is announcing that and kind of pointing out how that works. Price points for these because if they are digital, obviously there's going to be a price point for them, whether it's a $10 thing, a $5 thing.
Oh yeah,
My gut would be 10, but I don't know.
my gut's gonna be like, well, shit. Super Star Wars was 10, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, and that's why I'm thinking at least 10, maybe even 15. I don't know. I don't think a lot of people are. I think going from 10 to 15, you're going to drop out a lot of people who are going to be interested in playing these.
Yeah,
So I don't know.
yeah.
It'll be curious to see. That's the thing I'm really curious about is price point and what games. I think it's a done deal now. We know it's coming. It's
Hmm.
a matter of when, price point, and what games are. If they announce disc based, pop your disc. Oh
That would be
God, that's a
that
game
would be an
changer.
announcement. That would be an announcement.
That
Although
would
I just feel like Sony would make no money. Like, there's no reason for Sony to do that, which is why I'm not like I feel like Microsoft could probably still make some money off Xbox 360 sales.
yeah.
Nobody's making money off PS2 sales. Like nobody.
But I think what you do is you say, okay, it's disc based, and we'll provide you with digital copies of a select few for money.
I could see that.
You know what I
That I
mean?
would.
Like
Yeah,
your
yeah,
disc, every disc will work. Every week we'll put up 5 digital ones for the next year, and then they're
yeah,
making the money off the digital ones, but they're getting you hooked by going, oh shit, I still have my copy of Beyond Good and Evil over there. I can put
yeah,
that in and play it now. Oh man, what was that other game? Oh yeah, they do have that on. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. Where it's
yeah,
the disc base is to get us who still have some PS2 games sitting around hooked on it, and then going, man, there are some good games. Let me buy a couple more.
yeah. And Sony's actually been really good about like releasing like really rare games on
Yeah.
like especially from PS1 era. Just like some really rare games that are like Mega Man Legends, like that cost like $90 like a year ago,
Yep.
and now you can get it for $10. So I kind of hope that's the way they go with it. Is that they kind of release those like yes you can play your disc based games, but here's the digital version of that game nobody owns.
Yep.
They're pretty cool.
Yeah. So the other Sony news here, I don't know if they'll even. I don't know how much play this will get at PSX, just because it's a very technical sounding thing. So the recent PS4 update unlocked the seventh CPU core for gaming,
Yes.
which means better performance and graphics
This
and
is
such.
okay. All right. So I'm not very technical. I'll try to explain this
That's
as good
why
as
I was
possible.
just very technical in my explanation of it, so you don't need to bother.
Yeah. Well, basically, what it is that the PS4 has 8 cores that it processes through. Two of those cores have so far been reserved for the OS. So so that if I'm a developer creating a game, I can only access 6 cores at a time. So now they've said now that this happens with like almost every generation they do something similar to that. They did this with PSP, they did this with PS2. Basically, is what they improve the OS so it doesn't require as much processing power, and then they open up that processing power for developers to use. Actually, Xbox One did something similar too with the. I'll probably be wrong about this, but with like the Kinect processing, like they allow developers to turn off the Kinect and then use that processing power for games. So it's just that the OS is not that they're just making improvements to their OS to make it lighter on the system. So now developers can access more of it. What this means to games now, not a lot. What this means, like in the future, is like the same thing we kind of saw with PS2. Like at the beginning of PS2, we had like Bubble Bobble, and by the end we had God of War 2. Think about PS3, like Beyond Two Souls looks absolutely insane. God of War 3 looked crazy. God of War Ascension looked like, oh my god, almost CG. Compared to the beginning of like, MotorStorm and Uncharted 1, like, on PS3. So it's basically just that. It's just that games are going to look better, but games always look better by the end anyway.
So exactly what I said before you got off technical.
I didn't get technical. I just, I'm just kind of explaining.
But that's cool.
Yeah. It's kind of neat. It's just, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything to us.
It immediately do. And I think it's not like they're like, oh, cool. Let me update Battlefront now.
Yeah, it's like suddenly all your games work better. It's like, no, that's not how it's going to work.
But in 3 years, damn.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm already saying damn. Like, I really don't, like, after playing the Order 1886, I don't see how games could look better than that. Like, I don't know. It's like, okay, I'm now no longer impressed with graphics because of Order 1886. Like, okay, I need to see, like, art and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, like, between that and Battlefront, that's as good as the game's going to look in my mind.
Yeah, that's like, okay, yep, you did it. You did the thing that I wanted as a kid. Like, it looks way better than any CG we saw in PS1 and PS2 era, or even some in PS3 era for that matter. It's just like, okay, games look as good as I think they would ever have gotten. I don't even know what to go from here. Well, that's VR, but that's a whole other discussion.
Whole other thing. All right, last thing really quick here. So we started with Bloodborne, so we'll end with Dark Souls 3. Yep. Dark Souls 3 is the final quote-unquote Dark Souls game, whatever that may mean. Basically, the guy from Software came out and said, we're not going to continue with the Souls and Bloodborne games. We want to start working on something new. We think we can make new things, blah, 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 blah. So, yeah, Dark Souls 3 kind of is going to wrap up that whole thing for them, I guess. But I don't really know. I feel like there's got to be a Bloodborne 2.
That is actually the interesting part of this. My first reaction is I'm happy that they're over. I always feel like there's certain game series that should have ended. Like, I'd rather a game series end on a high note, and a very conclusive high note, than to be dragged out.
Agreed.
Over years, like kind of like Assassin's Creed or something like that. So I'm kind of happy that is. What is really curious, like they said, no more Bloodborne, which I was like, oh no.
Well, yeah, and it's just interesting how they kind of put those things together when they're. Again, I'm not an expert in any of these games, but they're very different games in my mind. I don't consider. It almost sounds like he's considering like Bloodborne, Dark Souls 2.5.
Bloodborne is a Souls game. Like it is it takes many of the mechanics are very similar to the point where Dark Souls 3 actually takes a lot from Bloodborne. So Dark Souls 3 is even more like a combination of the two. But I guess the more interesting thing of this is like, okay, there's no more Bloodborne 2, even though the ending kind of does leave it open for a sequel. What is interesting, though, is I think there's been rumors, and I think this has been confirmed, that From Software actually has like a multi-game exclusive deal with Sony, and everybody just kind of assumed Bloodborne 2 was the other game, but now it's not.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's much better in my mind.
yeah, which I think is fine. Like I think getting like 4 Souls games is effing ridiculous. Like we live in some alternate universe where that happened.
Well, technically 5 if you count Demon Souls.
Well, yeah. So Demon Dark 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, five. Yeah, five Souls games, which is crazy. And I think it's good to let that thing end. But I mean, From Software, like they do Armor Core. Like I wouldn't be surprised if a new Armor Core comes.
Ooh, that could be
Um,
fun.
yeah, like they got a lot of places they can go, and they're on good terms with everybody. So I'm kind of excited to see what they do next, and I'm kind of glad that Souls is done.
Yep.
Even though I really really like Bloodborne, because I just don't. It's like kind of like Kingdom Hearts 3. Like it's not gonna be as good as Kingdom Hearts 2. Bloodborne 2 is not gonna be as good as Bloodborne 1.
Yep.
Just
There's
yeah,
always that point you should have stopped, aka Resident Evil 4. So,
yeah.
with that, we'll wrap this up here. Thank
Mhm.
you guys for listening. You can follow us on Twitter at Darksliders_pod. Of course, you can subscribe to us on YouTube. We've been putting more and more video reviews up there with gameplay footage and stuff. So if you're
Mhm.
sick of just listening to us talk and would like to watch something while we talk, there's that option.
Yep.
Otherwise, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, iTunes, all the fun stuff that you can imagine, we're on it. So subscribe to us there, and thanks for listening.
Bye.